"You can sleep on the pull-out couch in our room," Mom said. "New plan," I declared and canceled their rooms. Next morning, my phone blew up with 27 messages. I stood in the hotel lobby, watching my mother fuss over my older brother Ethan's luggage. She was making sure none of his precious designer bags touched the floor. Meanwhile, my own suitcase sat forgotten by the door where the cab driver had dropped it. Some things never change. I'd spent 3 months planning this trip. 3 months of overtime and side gigs to afford the all-expenses-paid family vacation I thought might finally bridge the gap between us. A reset button, a fresh start. What a joke. "Alex, be a dear and check us in while I help your brother with his things." My mother didn't even look at me as she spoke, her attention fixed on adjusting Ethan's collar. He was 32 years old, a grown man being treated like a child. I bit back the sarcasm threatening to spill out and approached the reception desk. The hotel was everything I'd promised, 5 stars, ocean view, the works. Nothing but the best for this attempt at family reconciliation. "Reservation for Alexander," I told the receptionist. She typed quickly, her smile professional. "Yes, I have your booking right here, 2 rooms, 5 nights. She slid 2 key cards across the marble counter. "The Ocean Suite and the Garden View Room." I thanked her and walked back to where my family huddled. My father had finally joined us, busy scrolling through his phone, probably checking work emails, always too busy for conversation, at least with me. "Got the keys." I handed them over, watching as my mother's face lit up. "Wonderful. Now, Ethan, you'll take the suite, of course. You need the extra space for your equipment." My brother's equipment consisted of a laptop and a gaming console he'd insisted on bringing. He hadn't held a steady job in 3 years, called himself a content creator, but had yet to create anything that generated income. I cleared my throat. "Actually, I thought Dad and Mom would take the suite. Ethan and I can share the second room." My mother looked at me like I'd suggested we all sleep in the parking lot. "Don't be ridiculous, Alex. Your brother needs his space. You know how he gets when he's crowded." Ah yes, how could I forget the sacred temple that was Ethan's personal space? Growing up, I'd shared my room with him for 15 years. He'd claimed 3/4 of it, including the only desk. I'd done my homework on the floor. "Besides," my father finally spoke, looking up from his phone, "the second room only has 1 bed." I frowned. "I specifically booked a room with 2 queens." My mother waved dismissively. "Well, there must have been a mix-up. It's fine. You can sleep on the pull-out couch in our room." The suite had a pull-out couch. I knew because I'd researched every detail of this hotel, which meant they expected me to give Ethan the suite while I crashed on a couch in the smaller room. Something inside me shifted. A tectonic plate of patience that had been bearing weight for 24 years finally cracked. "No," the word hung in the air between us, small but significant. My mother blinked rapidly. "Excuse me." I said no, I'm not sleeping on a couch. I paid for these rooms. My father sighed that familiar sigh, the one that said I was being difficult again. "Alex, don't start. We're all tired from the trip." "I'm not starting anything. I'm finishing something." My heart hammered against my ribs. This whole vacation was my idea. I paid for everything, the flights, the hotel, the activities, and I'm still being treated like an afterthought. Ethan finally looked up from his phone, sensing drama. "Dude, chill. It's just sleeping arrangements." "It's never just sleeping arrangements." My voice was steadier than I expected. "It's every birthday when my gifts were an afterthought. It's every school play you all skipped because Ethan had a cold. It's every accomplishment of mine that got a nod while his C- grades were celebrated with dinner out." My mother's face flushed. "That's not true. We've always treated you both equally." I actually laughed, a short, sharp sound that surprised even me. "Sure, that's why I put myself through college, while you paid Ethan's tuition for the 3 majors he cycled through before dropping out. That's why I wasn't allowed to play music in my room because it disturbed his concentration. But he blasted his games all night during my finals week." My father stepped forward, his expression hardening. "You've always been jealous of your brother. We thought you'd outgrow it." "Jealous?" The word tasted bitter. "I don't envy anything about Ethan. What I wanted was to be seen, to matter equally." My mother's eyes welled with tears. Right on cue. The waterworks that had kept me in line since childhood, not this time. You know what? New plan. I turned and walked back to the reception desk, my family's shocked expressions burning into my back. Behind me, I heard my father mutter something about ungrateful and after all we've done. The same receptionist looked up, her smile faltering at whatever she saw in my face. I'd like to make a change to my reservation, I said quietly. 10 minutes later, I returned to my family with a single key card in hand. There's been a change of plans, I announced. I've booked myself into the presidential suite. I've also canceled your rooms. The shock on their faces almost made 24 years of being second best worth it. Almost. You did what? My father's voice rose, drawing glances from other guests in the lobby. You can't do that, my mother sputtered. Where are we supposed to stay? I shrugged. There's a budget hotel about 2 miles down the road. I hear they have pull-out couches. My father's face turned an alarming shade of red. This is unacceptable. I demand to speak to the manager right now. He stormed toward the reception desk. The receptionist, the same one who'd helped me minutes earlier, gave him a practiced smile. I'm sorry, sir, but the reservation was in your son's name. He has every right to modify it. This is ridiculous. He can't just leave us stranded. My father turned to me. Alex, you fix this right now. You're ruining our entire vacation. My mother grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. How could you do this to your family after everything we've sacrificed for you? Ethan stepped forward, his customary smirk replaced with fury. You know you were always the backup plan, right? Mom and Dad only had you as insurance in case I needed something. You were supposed to take care of this family, not sabotage us. The naked truth of his words hung in the air between us. It's not meant to be funny. I pulled my arm from my mother's grip and picked up my suitcase. For once, I'm putting myself first, the way you all have always put Ethan first. My father stepped closer, lowering his voice to a threatening whisper. I'll take legal action if I have to. You can't do this to us. That's just it, Mom. What exactly have you done for me that compares to what you've done for him? Name one thing. Silence, heavy and telling. My father tried a different approach. Son, I know we haven't always been perfect, but this is extreme. We came here to spend time together as a family. No, Dad. I came here hoping to finally be treated like an equal member of this family. It took less than 10 minutes in the lobby to show me that's never going to happen. I turned to walk toward the elevators, then paused. The vacation activities are still booked. You're welcome to join me for the sunset cruise tomorrow, if you can find accommodations nearby. The elevator doors closed on their stunned faces. My hands trembled as I pressed the button for the top floor. Years of suppressed emotions threatened to overflow, but I held them back. The presidential suite was ridiculous, bigger than my apartment back home. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the ocean, waves crashing against pristine white sand. A bottle of champagne sat chilling beside a fruit basket. I walked to the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone vibrated continuously in my pocket. I ignored it. For the first time in my life, I'd chosen myself. The weight of always being second best, of contorting myself to fit into smaller and smaller spaces to make room for Ethan's expanding ego, it was gone. I popped the champagne, poured a glass, toasted my reflection in the window, to no longer being second best. The night passed in blissful solitude. I ordered room service, took a bath in a tub big enough to swim in, slept in a king-sized bed without having to listen to Ethan's snoring or video game sound effects. Morning brought 27 text messages and 8 missed calls, most from my mother, growing increasingly frantic. The last one, sent at 3 a.m., informed me they'd found rooms at a motel 30 minutes away. The guilt trip was laid on thick. My father's back was acting up from the uncomfortable bed. The place was dirty. Ethan couldn't sleep with the highway noise. I set the phone down without replying. Breakfast arrived on a silver tray, eggs Benedict, fresh fruit, coffee in a silver pot. I ate on the balcony, watching early morning swimmers brave the waves below. The sunset cruise was scheduled for 5 p.m. I spent the day by the hotel pool, reading a book I'd been meaning to get to for months. No one interrupting me, No one needing something, just quiet and sunshine. I arrived at the marina 15 minutes early. Part of me wondered if they would show. They did, looking rumpled and tired. They huddled near the ticket booth. My mother's eyes were puffy from crying. My father's mouth was set in a grim line. Ethan looked like he'd slept in his clothes. I approached slowly, uncertain of my own feelings. The anger had subsided, leaving something cooler and more resolved in its place. "You came," I said simply. My father nodded stiffly. "We said we would." The cruise itself was beautiful. A catamaran with maybe 20 other tourists glided through the water as the sun began its descent. I kept to myself, standing at the railing while my family clustered awkwardly near the bar. Eventually, my mother made her way over to me. She'd fixed her makeup, but fatigue lined her face. "This is childish even for you," she said quietly, "making us stay in that dreadful place." "I'm not making you stay anywhere. You're adults. You can book your own hotel." "In peak season, everything nearby is booked solid," she sniffed. "Your father had to take allergy medication, the mold in that place." "Mom," I turned to face her fully. "I don't care," her eyes widened. "I've spent my entire life caring about everyone else's comfort while sacrificing my own. I'm done." This vacation was supposed to be a chance for us to reconnect as equals. Instead, within minutes of arriving, I was relegated to the couch while Ethan got the master suite. Some things never change, and I've accepted that now. "So this is punishment," I shook my head. "No, this is me finally setting boundaries. This is me saying I deserve better than what this family has offered me." She had no response to that. After a moment, she walked away, back to my father and Ethan. I watched the three of them huddled together, occasionally glancing my way, always a unit, me always the outsider. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues. Other tourists snapped photos, couples embraced, families laughed together. I felt a presence beside me and turned to find Ethan. He leaned against the railing, looking uncharacteristically serious. "Pretty sunset," he said awkwardly. I nodded. "Look, this whole thing is stupid." He ran a hand through his hair. "Just give Mom and Dad their room back. They're too old for that motel crap." Of course, he wasn't here to apologize. He was here to fix the inconvenience to himself. "If you're so concerned, why don't you give them your room? Since it's stupid." He scoffed. "Are you kidding me? And sleep where? In that roach-infested hellhole? The water isn't even hot." He leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You know your place in this family. You're the fixer, the provider. That's your whole purpose. I'm the one they actually wanted." "Funny how that works, isn't it? Everyone's comfort matters except mine." Ethan's expression darkened. "You've always had this chip on your shoulder. Poor Alex, so neglected. Meanwhile, you're the one with the stable job and the nice apartment. You're the responsible one everyone depends on." "You're making my point for me," I replied calmly. "I am the responsible one. I am the one everyone depends on. And how am I repaid? By being expected to sleep on a couch so you can have a suite to yourself." "It's just a room, man." "No, it's not. It's the story of our entire relationship. You take, I give. You demand, I accommodate. You need, I provide. I'm done with that story, Ethan. I'm writing a new one." The catamaran began its return journey to the harbor. Ethan retreated back to our parents without another word. The next 3 days passed in similar fashion. I enjoyed the resort amenities while my family struggled with their subpar accommodations. They joined me for the pre-planned activities, a guided hike, a local cooking class, a historical tour. Each encounter was strained, heavy with unspoken resentment. On the final night, a knock came at my suite door. I opened it to find my father standing alone in the hallway. "May I come in?" he asked formally. I stepped aside, allowing him entry. His eyes widened slightly as he took in the luxurious surroundings, the remnants of my room-service dinner on the dining table, the spectacular view. "Your mother wanted to come, but I thought it best if we spoke man to man." I said nothing, waiting. He cleared his throat. "What you did was petty and uncalled for." Not the opening I expected, but classic dad, no preamble, no softening. "Is that all you came to say?" I asked. "No," he paced toward the window, then back. "I came to say that while your methods were extreme, perhaps there was some justification for your feelings." Coming from my father, this was practically a full confession of wrongdoing. We may have favored Ethan in certain ways, he continued. He needed more attention. He struggled where you excelled. So I was punished for being self-sufficient, my father frowned. Not punished, we just didn't worry about you as much. That's the problem, Dad. You should have worried. You should have celebrated my successes the way you coddled his failures. You should have seen me. He looked away, uncomfortable with the naked emotion in my voice. Your mother cried herself to sleep last night, he said finally, changing tactics. Is that what you wanted? I sighed. What I wanted was to be treated like I matter as much as Ethan does. What I wanted was for one of you to say, no, Alex shouldn't sleep on the couch in the room he paid for while Ethan gets a suite to himself. But none of you did, so here we are. My father was silent for a long moment. We're flying home tomorrow. Will you at least drive with us to the airport? I've already arranged my own transportation. He nodded stiffly. I see. He walked to the door, then paused with his hand on the knob. For what it's worth, I'm proud of what you've accomplished, Alex. You've always been the strong one. The door closed behind him before I could respond. His words should have meant something. Maybe once they would have. But the revelation came too late, offered only when I'd finally forced their hand. The flight home was quiet. We'd ended up on the same plane despite my separate transportation to the airport. I'd been upgraded to first class, another perk of the presidential suite. I glimpsed them boarding after me, filing into economy without looking my way. Back in my apartment, I found myself standing at the window, watching the city lights blink on as dusk settled. My phone had been silent since we'd landed. No calls, no texts, no guilt trips. The quiet felt different this time. Not the tense silence of disappointment, but the peaceful absence of obligation. For the first time in my life, I wasn't calculating how to make myself smaller, how to contort my needs to accommodate Ethan's. I opened a bottle of wine I'd been saving for a special occasion. This qualified. I toasted my reflection again, but this time it wasn't bitter. It was a salute to the man I was becoming, someone who valued himself enough to demand fair treatment. In the days that followed, I rearranged my apartment, setting up the spare room as a home office instead of the perpetual guest room it had been, always ready for Ethan's impromptu stays whenever he was between places. I booked a solo trip to Portugal, something I'd always wanted to do but had put off because my vacation days were typically spent helping my family with their emergencies. My shoulders felt lighter, my mind clearer. I found myself smiling more at work, engaging more authentically with friends. People noticed the change. A week passed, then another. The silence stretched, becoming its own kind of statement. I threw myself into work, accepted a promotion I'd been hesitating on because it would mean less time available when my family inevitably needed something. Now, with the ties severed, I embraced the opportunity. A month after our return, a letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting instantly. Inside was a check for the full amount I'd spent on the vacation and a note. Reimbursement for our portion. Thank you for the opportunity to see ourselves through your eyes. I sat with the check for a long time, turning it over in my hands. This wasn't an apology, not really, but it was an acknowledgement. They had seen, finally, what I'd been trying to show them for years. Too little, too late? Perhaps, or maybe the beginning of something different. I picked up my phone and sent a text to my mother. I got your check. Would you like to meet for coffee next weekend? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, yes, your father and I would like that very much. No mention of Ethan, interesting. I set the phone down and returned to the window. The city sprawled before me, millions of lights representing millions of lives, each with their own complicated family dynamics, their own struggles for recognition and respect. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. Not from my family. I wasn't naive enough to think one dramatic gesture could undo a lifetime of patterns, but from the need for their validation. I had validated myself. I had put myself first. And somehow, in doing so, I had finally made them see me. Not as the reliable son who would always bend, not as the afterthought beside golden boy Ethan, but as Alex, a person with limits, with needs, with worth. The coffee meeting would be awkward. There would be attempts to revert to old dynamics, but something fundamental had shifted. I had shifted. I would never be second best again, not to them, not to anyone, not even to myself.